Hey there, it's Sam, and I'm just making this quick update for the week of September 23rd. We had quite a few things change recently and over the weekend, and so I just wanted to talk about that. One of the things is there was what's called a Kala Sarpa Yoga in the sky, which was all the planets between Rahu and Ketu, and that had been going on for several months, and that was broken actually on September 17th, when Saturn moved just past Rahu in Libra, and then on September 18th, Venus moved just past Rahu in Libra as well. So what this means is that, you know, we've sort of come out of this cycle, or this period where we were in between all of the shadow, where all the planets were in between the two shadow planets, the what are called Chaya Grahas, the shadow planets of Rahu and Ketu. It's actually the same phenomena. It's the ecliptic, where the orbits of the Sun, Moon, and Earth intersect along the ecliptic. Now, we see them when we have eclipses, so we're about to have an eclipse next month in October, but the eclipse points are always there, even though we don't see them. So what happens is when all the planets are in between the eclipse points, in between the North and South Node, that's called Kala Sarpa Yoga, and it's somewhat mysterious. It's not referred to in all of the ancient texts. It's not referred to in the formal texts necessarily, but I've seen the effect and the influence when all the planets are between the nodes. And it's a time of sort of confusing yet somewhat accelerated perceptions around whatever is being shown in that nodal axis. And at this point it's the Libra-Aries axis, and all the planets were in between Rahu and Ketu, not the reverse, because the nodes go backwards. So they were in between Rahu and Ketu because all of them went backwards from Libra, and then ended with Ketu and Aries. So there's been a lot of accelerated perceptions around Libra energies for the last several months, which has to do with, harmonizing our energy, compromise, yielding, giving, beauty, care, and attention to others, and also honoring our own sense of respect and wanting to be respected as we compromise. So Libra is really the sign of mutual respect, not about selfless compromise. Selfless love, selflessness, really comes from parents and their selflessness toward children, where they ask nothing in return, or other things that we want to love and create selflessly, like our creations and other things that we really ask nothing back in return. We just give love to those things because we want to give love. But Libra is actually about harmonizing our desires with another person's desires. People go through a lot of torture around the Libra thing, around the relationship thing, because we tend to think, oh, I should be able to love selflessly, I should be able to love my romantic partner selflessly. And actually that's not the case. That's not what the Libra axis is. Selfless love is parental love. And this is why as soon as relationships start to feel like there's a parental aspect, it doesn't feel good. When your partner expects you to love them regardless of how they act, it doesn't work, because then you don't feel respected and appreciated. Relationships, and not just romantic ones, but human adults interacting with each other, has a Libra quality to it. Mutual respect. And so that doesn't mean you can't selflessly love your partners, but it means that if you're going to have a romantic relationship with them, or if you're going to have a relationship with people where there's mutual desires on the line, there has to be mutual respect. You can't have one doing all the work while the other one says, okay, bring it on. And in fact, the parent-child relationship also evolves beyond that selfless love if a child and an adult are going to have a good relationship as adults. As the adult becomes more mature, the parent has to evolve based on the child's level of social maturity, social understanding. So once the parent and the child become two adults, they get along also based on the Libra axis. So there's been a lot of lessons around this for the last several months, and they're going to continue, but now we're going to maybe get to a point where there's more action around that, whereas before we maybe have been somewhat stuck in a cycle trying to work through some sort of deeply embedded habits around relating and around relationships. So that was broken by Saturn on September 17th and then by Venus on the 18th. had the autumnal equinox on Sunday. Now the equinox, the word literally means equal night, equal nights. It's where, based on the what's called obliquity of the Earth sitting in the sky, the days and nights are equal all around the Earth. And it's the beginning of autumn. And it's where the sun crosses the celestial equator moving south, relative to our place here on Earth. So it's a very important event astronomically. The days start getting shorter in the northern hemisphere and longer in the southern hemisphere. So it essentially means that for the next 6 months there will be more light in the southern hemisphere, whereas the previous 6 months there was more light in the northern hemisphere. So that's an important shift. You might have felt, something as a citizen of the northern hemisphere, let's say, which most people are, and that's no disrespect to people in the southern hemisphere, but if you're in the northern hemisphere, you may be feeling that sort of sense that the cold winter months are coming. And if you're in the southern hemisphere, then it's, spring has returned, and it's time for rejuvenation. So the equinox is quite important as an astronomical phenomena. Of course, in Vedic astrology, we don't use the zodiac, the tropical zodiac, we use the sidereal zodiac, and so it doesn't change the astrological signs in the Vedic sense. The sun doesn't move into Libra, but it's still very important astronomically because we live on the Earth and our body is timed. At least our physical health has a very strong correlation with the seasons and with the Earth in its orbit around the sun. Mercury is going to move into Libra. So Mercury had been exalted in Virgo, and he moves into Libra on Tuesday. And again, this is sidereal Libra, using the sidereal zodiac. And so now there's going to be even more planets in Libra. We already have Saturn and Venus there, and also Rahu, the North Node. So we're going to have Mercury in Libra as well, starting on Tuesday. So that's going to bring about, the need for that sort of diplomacy. It'll be a time of increased diplomacy. We may see some real movement on the diplomatic front in global affairs, especially because there's also going to be an aspect from Jupiter as Mercury continues through, and Venus is already there, and of course Saturn is also there. But that's a shift. Instead of having Mercury in Virgo, Mercury is now moved into Libra, which is going to bring his curious, creative, verbal approach more into the realm of relationship and human interaction, and even, as I say, culture. Opportunities will present themselves to to compromise and harmonize your energy with others, and in a more verbal way. So again, this could show an increase in global diplomacy, hopefully, but also personal diplomacy. So look for those things this week, and leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. And by the way, I did send out an email last week, and I've made some notices about my new book that's coming up. There should be a link on this page for you to get the book in advance. If you like my work, you'll really like this astrology book that I'm finishing, and I've started an Indiegogo project to pre-sell the book and get the funds in advance so that I can make it as best as it can be, and there's a lot of great bonuses as well for that. So, thanks a lot.